Leading Britain's conversation, The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, Donald Trump is coming to town next week, and there's a little surprise prepared for him. Before I get to that, there are 7 Eurosceptic ministers holed up in the Foreign Office as we speak, ahead, of course, of the big Country House meeting at Chequers tomorrow for the full cabinet. They've been told, the cabinet ministers attending, to expect to be there for up to 12 hours. And almost unbelievably, their mobile phones will be taken from them as they arrive. Does that suggest to you a Prime Minister that trusts the collegiate spirit of her team in the Cabinet? I think not. Mrs May, if you believe what you're told, is about to take us down a route where effectively we would stay inside the single market for goods. That's the bit, of course, where they sell us a lot more than we sell them. The whole thing would be the most extraordinary sellout. It would be Brexit in name only. We'd become like Norway, but without even having the fish. So that's why the Eurosceptics are meeting. They're planning a fight back, but will they really have the guts to do what's necessary? And I think, frankly, if she's prepared to give in to this extent, what is actually necessary is to get rid of her, to work on the fact that over the course of August, Monsieur Barnier won't be negotiating. He'll be on a Mediterranean beach somewhere, and to find a new leader to come back and try and save the Brexit talks. We will see. Nothing will come out tomorrow. We'll start to get leaked reports, maybe late tomorrow night, and by Sunday, I've no doubt when I'm back here in this chair on Sunday morning, we will find out what has or has not been agreed. But there's no doubt that a real, clean, democratic Brexit is now in crisis, and I have to say, I think the lack of leadership from our Prime Minister is the main problem. What about the Donald? Well, of course, he is going to go to the NATO summit next Wednesday to deliver a very tough message. He then comes here on the 12th. There'll be a dinner with some businessmen. On the Friday, he'll be in London for most of the day, and we understand he'll be in Scotland on Saturday before heading off to Helsinki to meet Vladimir Putin. And approval was given today for a giant blimp, by which we mean a big floating balloon, a giant blimp dubbed the Trump Baby, and it's Donald Trump as a baby with a big shock of blonde hair and a nappy. And this has been given the green light to fly near Parliament Square next week whilst President Trump is in London. It will fly at 98 feet, because that's what 30 metres apparently equates to. And permission for this has been given by, yes, you might have guessed it, it's London Mayor Sadiq Khan's Greater London Authority. Is this not the biggest insult possible to a visiting US president? And if you think, nope, Nigel, free speech, satire, all of that's fine. What's the problem? Sadiq Khan's guys have done the right thing. Call me on 0345 6060 973. Or if you think, as I do, actually, it's an insult too far. Yes, of course, people are allowed to demonstrate. Yes, of course, people can use free speech. But can you imagine the French authorities allowing this on Bastille Day last year when Trump visited Paris? So if, like me, you think actually this is really just too much, then text me on 84850. And let me ask you, does any of you seriously think that if an application to fly an Obama blimp of Obama as a young crying baby above Parliament Square when he came here last during the referendum to tell us to vote Remain, do you actually think that would have been allowed in Obama's case? Let me know your view by tweeting using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, and of course watch us on Facebook and comment there too. I just think, you know, you can't stop people, as I say, protesting, expressing their opinion, but I do think this sort of never-ending war of words, and it does cut both ways, because the president invites a fair bit of it, but this never-ending war of words between Sadiq Khan and Donald Trump is frankly ridiculous. I'd say to the Mayor of London, you know, you might not like Mr. Trump, you might not like his style, you might find him very confrontational, and you didn't like the so-called Muslim ban, But Sadiq, where were you when President Obama introduced a total ban on refugees coming from 7 predominantly Muslim countries? I didn't hear the howls of outrage. I didn't see the protests in the streets of London back in 2016. And I think to have allowed this blimp, I believe it's a step too far. I want to know what you think. I want to know what David in Colchester thinks of this. Good evening, David.
Hello, Nigel. Thanks for taking my call. Nice to talk to you. Quite frankly, I think it's about the level of Sadiq Khan's intellect, really, because they can't reason with facts. They can't argue with facts or reason, so they resort to ridicule. And I just think it's an absolute insult to a country which, not only the president, but to the country which helped us helped England and the Commonwealth in 2 world wars free Europe from oppression. And I think they've got very short memories, or selective memories. And quite frankly, I think Khan should be thoroughly ashamed of himself, and anyone who supports it should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, David, satire and criticism, though. I mean, you know, we've always had cartoons of our leaders, indeed our royal family. Sort of go back to George III. The cartoons of him weren't particularly complimentary. So we've always had, you know, one of the freest presses in the world, and people, you know, able to express mockery, outrage, or whatever it may be. But this is going to be flying nearly 100 feet up in the air in Parliament Square on the day the President of America comes to London. I think it's an insult too far.
I agree entirely. I think, I mean, especially the location, Parliament Square, a stone's throw from Westminster.
Yeah.
You know, if it was out in somewhere else in one of the suburbs, you could sort of laugh it off as a sort of bit of a joke and this sort of thing. But no, this is just a step too far. I think Sadiq Khan should be thoroughly ashamed of himself. And it's just a totally, as you say, whatever you like about Donald Trump or not, he's the head of state. We should respect that. Invite the man here. Personally, I've got a lot of time for him. But
it's a bit, David. It's a bit much, isn't it? I really,
no. You know, I just.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Fail me, but obviously they don't because I rang you up.
They don't fail you because you rang 03456060973 and gave us your view. David, I thank you. I get on Twitter, will Sadiq Khan allow me to fly a blimp of him? I bet he jolly well won't, Tony. Sylvia's calling from Putney. Good evening, Sylvia.
Hello, Nigel. Well, I'm appalled and totally embarrassed about this, Nigel, especially that our so-called mayor has consented to it. He's an utter disgrace.
Well,
he's no better than the silly little kids and the elderly hippies who delight in this sort of thing. And what a bad impression it gives of our capital city. They're not speaking for me, and I think a police marksman should have permission to shoot it down.
Well,
I don't know if that's possible, but I really do.
Well, it wouldn't be very. I mean, it wouldn't be very difficult to do, would it? But I'm not sure live rounds going off in central London's necessarily the best idea, Sylvia, you've ever had.
But £60,000, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, Sylvia. I mean, you know, people are, of course, allowed to criticise, to mock, to lampoon the President, just as they are our Prime Minister, and maybe after tomorrow at Chequers there'll be a lot more of that, who's to say. But this is a big visual symbol, isn't it, in Parliament Square, 100 feet up. So, Sylvia, you are appalled of Putney.
I am.
No,
yes, it's not in my name, Nigel.
No, not in your name. Thank you for your call. And by the way, folks, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me Sylvia's wrong. Tell me David's wrong. Tell me that actually this is a perfectly reasonable thing to do that could be expected of a visiting head of state anywhere in the world. See, the more you think about that, the more you realise it just wouldn't happen, would it? It just wouldn't happen. Come on, challenge me. Tell me I've got this wrong. Tony is calling from Fareham in Hampshire. Tony, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Nigel. Yes, I'm thoroughly embarrassed, and I agree with your last caller. He doesn't speak for me. He doesn't speak for many, many people in this country who view America as our greatest ally. The American president is a representative of the American people. Whatever you think about him, he is the representative of our greatest ally. And what he should be doing is he should be thinking back, or if he wants to make a point, he should be thinking back, as you quite rightly said, to what Obama did. when he was president.
Yeah, and
exactly the same thing.
I know. Obama, who supported the death penalty, increased military surges in Afghanistan, stopping, asylum seekers from 7 predominantly Muslim countries, and they didn't say a dicky bird, Tony, did they?
No, they didn't, and I'm embarrassed, because there'll be lots of American people in this country, when he visits, and there are lots of American visitors who love this country, and they must think, what the hell's going on here? Why is this person, who is supposed to be a complete neutral, a mayor of the greatest city, one of the greatest cities in the world, cosmopolitan cities in the world, speaking like this about the essential leader of the free world? Whatever you think of him, the next stop after London is Helsinki. Yeah. And whatever you think about Donald Trump, he is going to speak to Vladimir Putin. You cannot ignore Putin, and that's his reasoning. And my last point is, Nigel, that if Sadiq Khan wants to get a reality check, he needs to take a trip across the Channel, go to the American cemeteries over in Normandy, and take a long, clean look in the mirror and say to himself, am I really representative or fit to be the mayor of this great city?
I think the trouble is, Tony, that people are not looking at Trump as the president of America. They're looking at him as Donald Trump. Tony, I take the point. Claire has a different view. She says it's a disgrace that Trump should be allowed to come on a state visit. Well, actually, Claire, it's not a state visit. This is a working visit. He will get to meet the Queen, which he will be particularly thrilled with because he's a massive fan of the Queen. It's not a state visit, but we're told a state visit will follow in a year or two's time. But Claire thinks he should be banned from the country. Quite how that, Claire, serves our national interest is completely and utterly beyond me. And Kay sends me via text, actually, I love it. And I feel like setting up some crowdfunding campaigns to get more of the same blimps ready for the 13th of July. Well, Kay, again, what exactly are you trying to achieve? I mean, do you want to drive Mrs. May's done her best to wreck the relationship between us and America under Trump. Why would you want us to have the worst possible relations with America, regardless of who was the president? I don't get it, folks. I don't understand it. Somebody enlighten me. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
The couple who were fighting for their lives in hospital after being exposed to remnants of that nerve agent. Roy Collins, who's secretary of Amesbury Baptist Church, who saw Mr. Rowley a few hours before he was taken ill.
Charlie appeared quite dishevelled, incoherent.
How long before you heard what happened to him after he left?
My pastor phoned me to say our church had been cordoned off, and eventually the story started to come out that there had been a couple that had been affected.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With The Times, be not just informed, but well informed. Serial killer season returns to Really.
According to Berkowitz, the devil told him to kill these women.
We look back at the deadliest decade on record.
It was a time where one man could terrorize an entire city of 8 million people.
And take a trip into the minds of 1970s serial killers.
We can't teach someone to develop a conscience if it's not there.
Serial killer season, Killers of the 1970s, continues tonight from 10 on Really.
Your data matters to the NHS. Information about your health and care helps us improve your individual care, plan your local services, and research new treatments. The strict rules about how this data can and cannot be used have been strengthened. We're committed to keeping your information safe and being clear about how it is used. You can choose whether your confidential patient information is used for research and planning. To find out more, search Your NHS Data Matters. This has been brought to you in association with the Information Commissioner's Office.
You want a Maserati, but you need an SUV. Why not have both? Levante, the Maserati of SUVs. Now available with 0% finance. Search Maserati. Based on PCP sales only until the 31st of August 2018. Minimum 20% deposit, 24-month term, 10,000 miles per annum. Subject to status. Participating dealers only. Maserati Financial Services.
Looking for a better return on your savings? You could earn up to 5.35% tax-free interest per annum by investing in Cufflink's innovative finance ISA. Join thousands of investors who are earning more from their savings today and visit cufflinkisa.co.uk to get started. That's Kuflink, cufflinkisa.co.uk. Capital is at risk. Rate based on a 5-year fixed-term investment. You should seek independent financial advice.
Sometimes you just fancy a restyle. A new bathroom, perhaps a new kitchen. But as with all stylish things, you'll want to make sure that they're fitted to perfection. That's where Trusted Trader are always on hand to help. TrustedTrader.com have lots of really lovely tradespeople who are vetted, reviewed and reliable, so you'll find the professional you need, including an expert who'll design and install that gorgeous new kitchen or bathroom.
We are here every day and every night of every year. From newborn to old age. We never panic. We take a pulse, agree a plan, make a cuppa. We're doing our rounds, making our visits. We are Michelle, Adam, Alfie, Frankie, Yvonne. And at 3:49 this morning, we were Maisie too. We are the NHS and we are recruiting now. Search nursing careers.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Well, Donald Trump is going to be here on Friday the 13th, and there's going to be protests and marches in central London, and Sadiq Khan's Greater London Authority have given permission 100 feet above Parliament Square for a great big flying blimp of Donald Trump to be displayed, and it's a Trump baby with a big shock of yellow hair wearing a nappy. If you don't believe me, go to lbc.co.uk. Go to lbc.co.uk and see what the Trump blimp will look like. I think, frankly, this is just an insult too far. It's beyond free speech. It's beyond normal satire. Makes London, I think, look ridiculous. That's my view. I can't imagine any other city in the world allowing this sort of thing to take place with a visiting head of state, let alone the most powerful man in the world. That's my view. You can ring 0345 6060 973 and give me a different view if you wish to. And if you've not been catching up with the news today, it is the Novichok poisoning that is dominating everything. Charlie Rowley, 45 years old, Don Sturgis, 44, collapsed at their home in Amesbury, Wiltshire on Saturday, and both remain critically ill. Amesbury is 7 miles away from Salisbury, where the previous Novichok poisoning episode took place. Acres of speculation about did they come into contact with a discarded garment that had been worn. Nobody, seems to me, knows what is actually going on here. But the Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, did today give a statement in the House of Commons.
Let me be clear. We do not have a quarrel with the Russian people. Rather, it is the actions of the Russian government that continue to undermine our security and that of the international community. We will stand up to the actions that threaten our security and the security of our partners. It is completely unacceptable for our people to be either deliberate or accidental targets, or for our streets, our parks, our towns to be dumping grounds for poison.
Well, it's the same story. It's the Russians that did it. The government are absolutely convinced that it was the Russians that tried to knock out the former spy who'd turned against them. No one knows absolutely whether that's true. There is a fairly big consensus around that point of view. Others are more cynical. We will see what happens. But clearly, for anybody living in that part of Wiltshire, this is a very, very worrying development. Of that, there's no question. Jim is a new caller to this show. He lives in Leicester. Jim, I think this blimp really is an insult too far.
I don't, Nigel. So I don't know where to start with this, actually. So, I mean, I look at Donald Trump and I think to myself, yes, he won the election. Great, there was Russian interference and all the other stuff that comes with it.
How do you know that, Jim?
Well, I don't say I know it specifically.
No, well, be careful, because a lot of people are chucking accusations around at Trump. And do you know, this week, Jim, under parliamentary privilege, you know, I've got members of the House of Lords accusing me of mass criminality without a shred of evidence. So just, you know, we need to be slightly careful. But anyway, but that aside, what is it about, I mean, clearly you disagree with me. What is it about Trump the man? I mean, do you think he shouldn't even be coming to London?
Well, it's not that. I mean, look, admittedly, he came out with all sorts of stuff against Sadiq Khan, talked about the Muslim ban, you know, of all these different things. Now I can understand what Sadiq Khan might be feeling, and he may have consented to it on a neutral basis, i.e. he may have used some a religious aspect to it, thought, well, actually, I do think, Sadiq Khan probably thought, yeah, that pretty much represents Donald Trump. When I look at Donald Trump and on his Twitters, and I know it's a personal account, but when you look at his Twitters, he insults everyone from women to people in his own Congress to even inviting Putin to the let's bring him into the G7, G8, especially after the Novichok stuff had just recently happened. Now, it's happened again. Obviously, we can't prove it was the Russians.
No.
Again, like the last time, we couldn't prove it was the Russians. But the whole British government and everybody else said, yeah, it was the Russians. And I thought to myself, well, okay, fine. Yes, we have a great relationship, or did have a great relationship with America, but with all this tariff wars coming in, us coming out of Europe, there's a whole new world. Will that relationship really matter?
Well, Jim, isn't that... But Jim, isn't that point you've just made, that there's a whole new world with Brexit, doesn't that mean whether we like Donald... I like the bloke, he's a friend, but for me, whether we like him or not, he's an important potential partner for us, isn't he?
He is an important potential partner, but it is. If you look at... I'm not saying, So, yes, people are making a point that they're not happy that he's coming to this country. They want to represent him in the best way that he would understand, yeah? Because Donald Trump, I know they talk about these IQ tests, but let's be honest, he's not the sharpest tool in the box, yeah? And
Jim, I listened to all this. I mean, he's a very, very smart cookie, this bloke.
Well,
he thinks things through. He
doesn't, because how many times does he get his facts wrong? Yeah, if you look at the fact checks that come on CNN or various other things, like the biggest crowd of all presidential elections.
I think. Come on, to be fair, that was Sean Spicer that said that, and
it doesn't matter. He read it out, and I think even some of his.
Jim, it was always said of Trump, right? Yeah. That you should never take him literally. But you should always take him. But you should always take him seriously. Hey, I've known Boris Johnson get one or two facts wrong,
he has.
and arguments the wrong way round.
The one that got all the maths wrong as well. So there's lots of people that have got their facts wrong. But when you're making decisions, and you've got to remember, he's in charge of the most powerful country in the world. Yeah. And he's making decisions that actually could affect millions of people. He's even, I wouldn't say he's killing off his people, but if he's ruining healthcare for his own people, then that says something about a man who doesn't, all he cares about is himself, his ego. Yeah.
All right. No, Jim, that's your view. That's your view. But let's try a little game here, right? You're ringing me from the Midlands of England. Imagine you lived in the Midwest of America, right?
Yeah.
And your president, whether you'd voted for him or not, is going to visit, what has been for the last 100 years America's closest ally. And what you see on your news screens, what you see, on social media, what you hear being debated in your local talk radio station is the fact that the President of America came to Parliament Square, the mother of parliaments as it's known around the world, and there was a giant inflatable blimp of your president dressed up as a baby. What does that make you think, as a Midwestern American, about the UK?
Well, he's not going to think very much, is he?
No, but I'm saying you. Imagine you are...
Personally, if it was me and I was that president walking into the country and someone showed me that blimp, my first thought would be, well, is that what they think of me? And then I'd probably look at my, personal confidants, the number ones, number twos around me and go, am I really that bad? I would ask that question. And
don't you think, Jim, this will make the UK, this blimp, which every piece of anti-Trump media around the world, and because there's plenty of them, will focus on, doesn't it make us look, frankly, a bit ridiculous?
Well, look, I've read some of your posts, and literally on Facebook, as they stream through with everyone writing, and the majority of those people say yes, it would make us look ridiculous, and he's a member of state. You should get the common courtesy and respect that's needed. Now, these people, it is a free state. Yeah.
No, Jim, I'm all for free speech. I'm all for satire. I'm all for mockery. I get all of that. I just think the symbolism of this in Parliament Square, I think it's awful, Jim.
You know what? It's been allowed. Yeah. If it wasn't allowed, it wouldn't be legal. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's been allowed. It's going to happen. he's going to either take that message away and either change himself, or he's going to take that message away and ignore it and call it fake news.
Do you know what, Jim? I know him a bit. He's 72 years old. He ain't changing for anybody or anything. Thank you for your call and being a great sport. I'm sure Trump will just laugh at how pathetic these small-minded people are. Maybe he will. What does Barry in Norwich think? Good evening, Barry.
Oh, Nigel, help. Yeah. I'm hyperventilating here with that last caller. I can't believe some of them he's saying. When are people going to accept that this man was elected in a democratic election in a democratic country? It doesn't matter whether you like it or you don't.
But Barry, Jim threw it in early. Russia colluded.
Oh, honestly, I'll tell you, seriously, I swear to God, yeah, right? Hallelujah that the man's gone over to the Korean Peninsula and is starting to make peace with North and South Korea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great. And, I hope he has a good relationship with Putin and stops all this nonsense. Do you know what I mean? Why not? Yeah? Why not? And what is it with Sadiq Khan? Why?
Not just Sadiq, Barry. We've got the Speaker of the House of Commons, that wonderful John Bercow.
It's all stuck in 2016, and the things that happened in 2016 happened for a reason. Trump was elected for a reason. Brexit happened for a reason, because people are seriously, fed up with the political elite, the establishment. Do you know what I mean? This man is doing everything that you say he's going to do. He's putting his country first. And this government should take a leaf out of his book and start putting this country first. Yeah?
Barry, I'm struggling to disagree very much with you. Finally, before we go, do you have a message for Sadiq Khan? Come on, a clean one, behave.
Come out of your bubble, Sadiq. Yeah?
Come out of your bubble.
You don't represent me. Yeah.
Not in my name, says Barry in Norwich, as do many others. Thank you, Barry, for your call. Mick says on Facebook, up with the blimp, there should be a Farage one too. Mick, it wouldn't worry me tuppence. But you know what? I'm not a visiting head of state. And I think this blimp is an insult to the whole of America. It is once again us shooting ourselves in the foot. I cannot imagine any other civilised capital city in the world would allow this to be done to a visiting head of state. I really, really mean that. And I tell you something, it would never have happened when the godlike Obama came here to tell us all to vote Remain. Because remember, we were going to be at the back of the queue. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 7:30 and time for the news with Philip Chryssikos.
The Chief Constable of Wiltshire Police says he can't rule out more people becoming ill from the latest Novichok poisoning that's left 2 people critically ill. Keir Pritchard's comments come as the Metropolitan Police say the man and woman were exposed to the nerve agent after handling a contaminated item in Amesbury. A teenager has been charged with the death of a 6-year-old girl on the Isle of Bute. The 16-year-old will go before Greenock Sheriff Court tomorrow. British 21st seed Carl Edmund has won his second-round Wimbledon tennis match against American Bradley Clan. Earlier last year's Wimbledon men's runners-up Marin Cilic went out of the tournament, going down in 5 sets to Guido Pella. LBC weather. Any showers easing this evening and overnight, a low of 12 degrees. Tomorrow, warm and sunny, isolated showers in the southeast of England, a high of 30 degrees.
LBC travel. Following the major signalling problems at Streatham Common, the Gatwick Express is suspended between Victoria and Gatwick Airport, and there's severe disruption across the Southern and Thameslink networks. That's heading to and from London. You're advised not to travel to and from Victoria. The London Overground also have severe delays between Highbury and Islington and Dalston Junction. Looking at the tubes, the District Line is part suspended, and the Circle and Hammersmith and City Lines have severe delays, with severe delays on the Metropolitan Line from Baker Street to Aldgate. LBC Travel, I'm Charlotte Downs.
This is LBC.
All next week, LBC, along with Cancer Research UK, will be looking at what is happening right now to help beat cancer. As research continues, new and better treatments are being developed, which are helping more people survive cancer than ever before. Areas that will be looked at include improving survival, the help that's available after a diagnosis, and research breakthroughs. For more information, go to lbc.co.uk with Cancer Research UK and LBC.
Your data matters to the NHS. Information about your health and care helps us improve your individual care, plan your local services, and research new treatments. The strict rules about how this data can and cannot be used have been strengthened. We're committed to keeping your information safe and being clear about how it is used. You can choose whether your confidential patient information is used for research and planning. To find out more, search Your NHS Data Matters. This has been brought to you in association with the Information Commissioner's Office.
For everyone who wants more from their Wi-Fi, for everyone who wants to binge-watch box sets all day long, for everyone who's been stung by unexpected broadband price hikes, TalkTalk has your back. Because our faster fibre comes with our promise of no mid-contract price rises and includes our all-new Wi-Fi hub, with our fastest, strongest, most reliable signal yet, all for just £25.50 a month for 18 months. Search TalkTalk Fibre. TalkTalk for everyone. £30 setup fee, contracts and conditions apply.
You want a Maserati, but you need an SUV. Why not have both? Levante, the Maserati of SUVs. Now available with 0% finance. Search Maserati. Based on PCP sales only until the 31st of August 2018. Minimum 20% deposit, 24-month term, 10,000 miles per annum. Subject to status. Participating dealers only. Maserati Financial Services.
We've been thinking, most people, at some time or another, have a working lunch. But when you run a business, you often have a working breakfast too. A working dinner. And a working midnight snack. That's why, to save you time, our local relationship managers could visit you at your place of work to offer specialist support and guidance. Because changing times call for a proactive bank. Search NatWest Relationship Managers. NatWest. We are what we do.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Donald Trump's going to be in London all day next Friday the 13th, and of course there are going to be protests and there are going to be banners and posters and cartoons, but there's also, because it's been agreed by Sadiq Khan's Greater London Authority, there's going to be a Trump baby blimp flying 100 feet up in Parliament Square. Trump as a baby with a shock of yellow hair, wearing a nappy. If you don't believe me, go to lbc.co.uk and you can actually see the picture of it. We're going to be an international laughingstock, folks. I'm not against protest. I'm not against satire. I'm not against mockery. I'm for free speech. But this is the image that will go around the world. It doesn't make sense. What also doesn't make sense is a Prime Minister who stands up and says, Brexit means Brexit, we're leaving the single market, we're leaving the customs union, we're taking back control over our fisheries, who then concedes and is now about, if we believe all the reports we're getting, to put a proposal to the Cabinet tomorrow as they meet for a 12-hour session in Chequers that effectively would keep us in the single market for goods and, crucially, aligned to European Union rules and still overseen by the European Court of Justice. It would be a complete sellout, and in the face of that, there are, as we speak, 7 Eurosceptic ministers meeting in the Foreign Office, plotting. Will they have the guts to actually do anything? Well, don't hold your breath on that. But it just shows you what this has come to. When an article appears online this evening in the Daily Mirror, written by Lord Malloch Brown, warring cabinet ministers to fall in behind the Prime Minister at tomorrow's Chequers summit. So the man that is leading the campaign to give us a second referendum, to keep us in the European Union, the man that is funded by George Soros, who of course is pushing all the big globalist projects like the European Union, when the other side now say back the Prime Minister, you realise this extent to which she is prepared to sell out. Whether those Eurosceptic ministers, whether in the aftermath of this, as we head into next week, the Tory Eurosceptics who want to hold true to the Brexit vote have got the guts to get rid of this Prime Minister, without doubt the worst I've seen in my lifetime, to hold a contest over the month of August and to go back to Brussels with firmer resolve in September, I don't know. I'd like to think they would, but you know something? I don't think they've got the guts. I hope I'm wrong. Right, back to the baby blimp of Trump, and Tom is ringing from Petersburg. Tom, good evening.
Hi there, Nigel.
Good evening. So you're a new caller to the show. Are you a Trump supporter or detractor?
I'm not a huge fan of him, but I don't have any specific vendetta against him.
OK, fine. So how does this blimp look when it appears on the world screens next Friday?
Well, I was calling in because I suppose I have a unique perspective on it in that I'm an American citizen and a British citizen.
Okay.
And I think to be honest, it says a lot about our country that people have the ability here to have free speech and to use that to ridicule and to satire any individual. I don't think we should look at this as an attack from Sadiq Khan against Donald Trump necessarily, but that the British people disagree with someone and that we're a strong enough country to be able to deliver on that.
Well, I haven't got any problem at all, Tom, with you making up a banner and taking it into Parliament Square next week, or, you know, drawing a cartoon, or saying what you want on Twitter or Facebook or anywhere you like. I've got no difficulty, Tom, with any of that. I've got no difficulty with, you know, newspaper editorials, commentators on LBC, all having their opinion. That's all fine and dandy. What I have a problem with is the stupidity of the Greater London Authority to give an image of Britain to the world that is, we as a country are anti-American and anti-Donald Trump. That strikes me, Tom. Well, Tom, my argument, Tom, is that no other capital city would allow this to happen when you've got another head of state visiting.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think you might be right, but I think that shows a positive aspect of Great Britain. I don't think that's negative at all. For instance, I'm sure this would never happen in Vladimir Putin's Moscow, and I think it would be unlikely to happen in Donald Trump's Washington.
It wouldn't happen in Paris, Tom. It wouldn't happen in Brussels. It wouldn't happen in Madrid. It wouldn't happen in Berlin.
You might well be right, but I think that says more about us than it does about those countries, that we have the ability to listen to our own people and their thoughts and views. Whether you believe in Donald Trump or not, there are a sufficient number, 16,000 or however many signed a petition, that don't believe in him.
So you think, Tom...
I think the point about...
Tom, you think that this piece of imagery actually fits in with our tradition of free speech?
I think it is a symbolism of that, yeah, absolutely.
All right, no, listen, that is a perfectly fine point of view to have. I don't. I think it goes way beyond it. I think it is a direct insult, but I think it's also a symbol that will be used around the world against us. I just think we're shooting ourselves with the foot. Tom, you've made your point of view with great passion. I thank you. Hi, Nigel. Will you be meeting President Trump on his UK visit? Asked Lewis in St Albans. Well, Lewis, as you may have seen this week, part of the protocol discussion between Number 10 and the White House has been Number 10's insistence that he doesn't meet me when he's here. They're absolutely paranoid about me in Downing Street. They hate me in Downing Street. They think that I've caused this wretched referendum to happen, which they never wanted, and they're now tasked with implementing something which, of course, none of them agree with. So I am, I think, the most loathed person in the country by them, if not the world, and the last thing they want is me walking out of a meeting with Trump saying, yeah, actually, do you know what? The president agrees with me. The Brexit process is a complete load of rubbish. It's about time we've got to move on. They weren't going to allow, they do not want to allow for that to happen, and I certainly would not want to embarrass Trump or mess up this visit. I mean, I am hoping at least on NATO we might get some agreement that maybe what the British government could do is to be the broker between America and the other European countries who are refusing to pay the basic membership fee for NATO, which could lead to America withdrawing its protection and support for us. So I have no plans, Lewis, as it stands, to meet the President when he's here next week. If he insisted on meeting me for a cup of tea, I would then go and see him. But I don't think I'm going to be top of his priority list. I kind of think with a NATO summit, a meeting here with the British government, with whom relations have become increasingly worse, and a trip to see Vladimir Putin, I won't be too near the top of his list. But what I think will upset him, Lewis, are reports coming out today. You see, if what Mrs May wants us to do is to stay effectively part of the single market in a different name, but crucially to maintain regulatory alignment, that then makes a future trade deal, even if we're outside of the customs union, virtually impossible. Because New York and London, these two mega financial centres, and if London's financial centre is tied to European Union rules and we're not able to adapt, it will be impossible to have a financial services deal with America. And I have to say, you know, all of us that voted Brexit did so believing there was a better, brighter future if we were in charge of making our own laws. That is why I really hope those Eurosceptics stand up tomorrow and say this cannot be allowed to happen. Paula is a new caller from Manchester. Paula, good evening.
Hello, good evening, Nigel, Mr. Farage. Hi. There's one thing, childish. That's the first thing that comes into my mind is, okay, I believe in freedom of speech, but this is at a childish level. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, sure.
Secondly, I kind of get a feeling that the mayor is actually using his own dislike. So he's basically allowing his personal view, so he doesn't like him. So he's allowing this based on his personal views, but he's using the population to... Do I make sense?
No, you do. No, you do. He's yes, and Paula, you know,
and that's very unprofessional. It's very unprofessional. If it's a private person, and you know they can allow it. I don't know, but he's allowing his own personal dislike. I'm sort of indifferent with Donald Trump. He's never bothered me. And he's not likely to. I'm never likely to meet him. I go in my life. I go to work. And why people are consuming such hate? You can just, you can say, well, I don't agree with their politics, but consuming hate on a daily basis is a bit ridiculous.
I've never, Paula, seen anything like it. And it's happened with Brexit. It's happened with Trump. The recent Italian elections have seen it flare up again. It's as if an established order that had controlled things for decades is so horrified by these new election results and these new players that they just can't mentally cope with it. They're kind of almost self-combusting with rage over the whole thing. And you're right. You know, the professional thing is to look at Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, as the president of the USA. And Paula, I think your point is a really valid one, that from Sadiq Khan, this is unprofessional. Great point. Thank you for the call. On Twitter I get, they can't stop you meeting Trump. What the hell can they do about it? Well, ultimately, that is true. As I say, I think he's got bigger things to worry about somehow. Jennifer says Khan should be trying to sort out London and all its faults. He has ideas above his station. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But Paula's point is that actually he's being a bit unprofessional. I reckon Paula has got it on the money. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, and it's now 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
It's showdown at Chequers tomorrow, the last chance to come to a cabinet deal on Brexit. So what do you hope might come out of this crunch meeting?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Ocean Credit Card.
If you're looking for a credit card with a credit limit of up to £1,500, go to checkocean.co.uk and see in seconds if you'll be accepted for an Ocean credit card before you apply. Checking won't affect your credit rating, so it's a no-brainer. Find out if it's a yes. Go now to checkocean.co.uk. 39.9% APR representative variable. Intelligent Lending Limited is a credit broker. Capital One is the exclusive lender.
Checkocean.co.uk.
Landlords, Direct Line guarantees to beat other insurers' renewal premiums for the same cover. Can your insurance do that? Switch to Direct Line Landlord. New customers only. Qualifying criteria apply. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
Meanwhile, in the Incredibles household, the Sky broadband is, well, incredible.
Dash, are you ready?
Wait a second, Mom. Just downloading a film in my room.
It's time to leave.
Coming. Just gotta log out of a game in the loft.
Dashel Robert Parr.
Okay, I'm ready. I just need to email my homework. But first, I gotta answer the questions.
You gotta be kidding me.
Download, play and stream around your home with incredible Wi-Fi from Sky Broadband. See Disney Pixar's Incredibles 2 out July 13th. External factors may affect coverage. Superfast 10-year-olds should ask permission.
You've had those damp patches on the walls for a while now. And like a lot of people, you do nothing. Even though it's a health risk and it's damaging your property. So get it sorted once and for all with London Damp Specialists. They offer a standard 30-year guarantee on all their work, and it's usually ready to paint in around 10 days. But best of all, they won't take any payment until your walls are completely dry. Search LondonDampSpecialists.com, where you only pay when it's dry.
The John Lewis clearance is now on. There are thousands of great offers across all your favourite brands, from kitchen and homeware to fashion and beauty, as well as expert advice from John Lewis partners and a minimum 2-year guarantee on all our electricals. Visit John Lewis or shop online and get more of what you love for less. John Lewis clearance, now on.
Your data matters to the NHS. Information about your health and care helps us improve your individual care, plan your local services, and research new treatments. The strict rules about how this data can and cannot be used have been strengthened. We're committed to keeping your information safe and being clear about how it is used. You can choose whether your confidential patient information is used for research and planning. To find out more, search Your NHS Data Matters. This has been brought to you in association with the Information Commissioner's Office.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC, The Nigel Farage Show.
Sadiq Khan's Greater London Authority have given permission on Friday the 13th, the day Donald Trump's in London, for a Trump baby Parliament Square. I think this goes beyond the normal bounds of free speech. Begins to make us look a bit of a laughingstock. Mike in Bedford feels strongly about this. He says, Nigel, I intend to fly a blimp over the city asking the question, Khan, what are you going to do about violent crime in London? Do you think he would approve that one? No, Mike, it wouldn't get past first port of call, would it? Nor would anybody who'd applied to fly one of these of Obama. It would not have happened. Reese is a first-time caller from Watford. Good evening, Reese.
Good evening, Nigel.
Hi, welcome to the show. So, is this blimp part of our natural tradition of free speech, or is it over the top and an insult?
Nigel, I am someone who does naturally support freedom of speech. I do support this blimp if on the basis of freedom of speech. It's not inciting violence or the like. I mean, I have to say, Donald Trump is a 72-year-old man. I suppose he has the maturity to be the President of the United States. If he doesn't like this, he should be the bigger man and laugh it off. I mean, I do have to listen to some of these calls, Nigel, where people say, not in my name, mentioning World War II of all people. It's not insulting the people of America or our history. It's insulting the man. And honestly, if he's going to get this upset over it and destroy, and it's going to put into Anglo-American relationships, then is it really a relationship worth having?
Well, Reece, first point is, we don't know whether Trump will be offended by it. He might think it's just funny or stupid. So we don't know about how his own reaction to it will be. But aren't we making a mistake, Reece? Shouldn't, given that he is coming here on a working visit as the leader of the most powerful country in the world, the country that is the biggest foreign investor in our nation, has been the linchpin of NATO, with whom we share great intelligence, and we have a shared history too, shouldn't we be treating him as the American president, not just as Donald Trump?
Perhaps so, Nigel, but since he comes from America, where the biggest foundations of freedom of speech, surely he could just take the joke. Thing is, I would support this even if Barack Obama was going to visit. I think, I take no favours just because I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, and I have a lot of criticisms of Barack Obama. I do believe that if they are true allies, then I understand this is a freedom of speech of some people, not all. They can respect that.
And Reece, the point I've been making all through this show is that I do not believe that a visiting head of state in any civilised city in the world would see, a blimp 100 feet up in the air opposite their parliament. Other governments wouldn't allow it, Reece. Doesn't it make us look a bit silly?
I'm afraid I have to concur with Tom a few calls back. I think it says more about us than it says about them. I just feel like, is it immature? Is it a bit childish? But so what?
Okay.
I just feel like I believe in freedom of speech that strongly.
Okay, so really, Reece, you think a few of us are getting a bit too hot under the collar. It doesn't really matter.
I'm sorry, but I hear people talk about World War II and say, not in my name, getting this upset about it. I feel like, I'm sorry, if this was on the opposite side, they might be called snowflakes. I mean, I'm sorry, that feels almost snowflakes.
You're turning it round the other way. Okay, no, Reece, listen, you've argued your point very well. Thank you for your call.
Nice to talk to you.
Thank you, nice to talk to you, and thanks for calling the show. Let's go to Michelle, and she lives in Cincinnati. Good afternoon, Michelle.
It is afternoon here, Nigel. It's so good to speak with you. I think that this topic is absolutely hilarious. When I heard about it, I laughed out loud. Not because what they're doing is funny, but because it is embarrassing. And I'm thinking that the rest of the free world is going to be able to see this for what it is. But my question to you is, don't you find this a little bit hypocritical? I mean, let's say the head of Saudi Arabia were to be coming, would they give a permit to fly a blimp that says bacon is great? And I mean, everybody knows bacon is great, right?
No, Michelle, there wouldn't be a cat's chance in hell of it being allowed. There's no way it would happen. And there's no way the godlike Obama would have faced something like this. This is just because of this personal antipathy that people like Sadiq Khan and others have towards Donald Trump. And I said to a caller earlier, he was from the Midlands of England, how does this look from the Midwest of America? And I don't think it makes our country look very good, Michelle.
No, it doesn't make your country look very good, but here's the good news, Nigel. Most of us, I would say at least 50% of us in the United States, are woke. That's how Donald Trump was elected. And so most of us are going to be able to see it, and we're going to be able to pinpoint that, you know what, this is Sadiq Khan's London, this isn't the UK's London. And we can see the difference. And we understand that you guys are our greatest ally. And we feel the love and the camaraderie and the connection with the UK people that George Soros and the globalists and the powers that be are trying to divide us. But it's not working. The fact that something this humiliating and embarrassing to the United Kingdom is allowed to happen shows their desperation. I think that's good news.
Michelle, if the American people see it as Sadiq Khan's blimp, and not the British people or British government's blimp, then we may be okay. Michelle, great call. Thank you very much indeed. LBC.co.uk. You can go there, anybody, and see the Trump baby blimp in nappy with a big shock of yellow hair. There is a level at which you can laugh at it, but not flying over Parliament Square when the President of America's visiting London. No other country would allow this to happen. Agnes says, can't the government put a stop to this embarrassing situation? Well, Agnes, if the government attempted to, and I don't know how the bylaws would work, I suspect this is, the Greater London Authority's decision, but if the government even tried to intervene, then the whole thing would escalate, of course, even worse. The intelligent thing, the grown-up thing, the mature thing would be for Sadiq Khan and the GLA to say, do you know what, actually, we've made a mistake. It is a step too far. London will become a laughingstock. Lynn says on Facebook, disgusting putting that stupid balloon up. It wastes thousands from a GoFundMe page. Well, if people want to waste their money, Lynn, they should be allowed to waste their money. Of course they should. And Mac says to me on Twitter, we're already a laughingstock. Brexit without any plan has caused the world to look on us as a clueless nation. Yep, and after Chequers tomorrow, that could be even worse. Nigel is calling from Leeds. Good evening, Nigel.
Oh, good evening, Nigel. I'm glad that I had the chance to calm down before I got to speak to you, because I just think this is utterly, utterly disgusting. And I'll tell you for why. If you look at us as a business, which is the whole idea of Brexit as well, in that we're trying to go out to the outside world and all the rest of it, Sadiq Khan and his cronies and merry men all went over to see Obama and Clinton's and all them and have coffee and tea with them, and they put us at the back of the queue. Now, when the man, who was a very powerful man, a very successful man, a person who was probably half British anyway in down the nature of it, he comes over here, and we know that he's going to put us #1, right? If you were running a business, would you insult the CEO or managing director by putting a blimp outside your company to say, we want to do business with you, we want to be great, and basically then go put a blimp up outside when he arrived?
Nigel, I as you say, if you view this from a business perspective, then it is a mad decision to allow this to happen. And that is not the same as stopping free speech, is it? It's not the same as stopping, posters, cartoons.
And something else, if I could just put in there.
Yeah, go on.
I'm absolutely livid here.
I can tell.
I'm the apostle in Leeds, Nigel. I were right behind you in the Brexits and everything, believe me. Now, the other thing that gets to me is maybe Sadiq Khan came down off his high horse, because he needs to be on one. Maybe if he came down and met President Trump, maybe President Trump could give him a few tips on how to solve the crime in London, like they did in New York.
Well,
if learn something.
Yeah, it'd be a very good thing if Trump brought Rudy Giuliani with him. Giuliani was the mayor during that period, introduced zero tolerance, a different style of policing, a hands-on approach, and you know what? It was a phenomenal success. And to think that London now has a murder rate that is so far this year far higher than New York says a lot. Nigel, thank you for your call. I'm pleased that you've calmed down a little bit. But others say, look, on Twitter, we live in a democratic country after all, let it fly. Yes, we do live in a democratic country, absolutely, and our rights of free speech are really, really important, vitally important. And with that, we have a huge tradition, long tradition of lampooning, of cartooning. I think we do it better than anybody in the world, and we must be allowed to go on and do it, and we should be able to mock leaders. We should be able to mock churches. We should be able to mock everybody. And I'm perfectly happy that people want to be in Parliament Square next week to do that, but for goodness sake, not flying 100 feet above Parliament Square in front of Big Ben, one of the symbols of our nation, makes us look very silly, makes Sadiq Khan look even more silly. You've been listening to The Nigel Farage Show. I'll be back on Sunday morning at 10 to assess the damage and fallout from Chequers. Coming up at 10 tonight, it's Ian Collins, but up next, it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you. At 9, the Property Hour, advice from property expert and lawyer Russell Conway this week. Also later, I'll be